So if you are in seminary or considering seminary, it can be very easy while in seminary to think that being part of a local church isn't that important, so you can focus on your studies, but in fact, the opposite could not be more true. And so today on Practical Church Planning, we're going to give you 4 reasons why you should be involved in a church community while in seminary. Welcome to Practical Church Planning, where at 15 minutes or less, we'll give you practical tips, advice, and encouragement to help you plant and grow healthy churches. My name is Dylan Dotson, and today I've got a special guest with me, Adam Pickard, who's on staff here at New City, is also a seminary student, which is significant because today we're talking about 4 reasons why you should be involved in a church community while in seminary. So Adam, why don't you give us reason number one, kick us off.
Yeah, definitely. And I have to begin with saying I love Practical Church Planning. Super helpful.
Biggest fan, huh?
Biggest fan. So it's an honor to be here. But yes, reason number one why if you're in seminary, you should be part of a church community. And the first reason is maybe obvious and maybe something that we can all agree on, hopefully, but is that everybody needs church. And when I say that everybody needs church, I would say that for anybody who is in seminary, probably has a view of God that says God does want us in church, around community. And it's simply that. I think sometimes we think that we go to church to learn things. And so if I'm not in church, I'm not learning about God, I'm not learning the Bible. And that might be true, but I think the bigger call there, and I've kind of already said it, is that God calls us to community. And so we're not talking about God wants you in the church building so that you can learn more, so that you can grow in knowledge, which I think you will and is something beneficial. But all of us need community. And so if you're in seminary, it's not necessarily enough to think about the knowledge that you're gaining in the classroom versus what you'll gain in a church building. But it is all about the community that you find in a church.
Yeah, and it's always funny, too, when, seminary students might be, I'm only here for a few years, whatever, and not get really involved. And It's like you want to lead a church, and yet you don't think the church is helpful enough to you. You think you're only there to lead it, but you don't think you can get anything out of it.
Right.
And so how can you then get frustrated with people who also may have that same view, maybe in a different way? So maybe they work, whatever, and they don't seem to think it's that big of a deal, and yet you want to be a leader in the church, but yet you don't feel like it's that big a deal for you. Unless I'm in charge, I'm not going to go. I don't know. I find that to be an ironic position when we have people in seminary who don't actually invest unless they get to be somewhat in charge.
And I would say, too, personally, I'm in a position where New City Church is located in Raleigh, North Carolina. Raleigh is not my, I guess, foreseeable future for what me and my wife want to do. We do want to do church planning somewhere outside of Raleigh. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm a good example of, even though this isn't necessarily where we want to be long term, Raleigh is still valuable for where we're at right now, and so are the churches in your community.
Yeah, and again, like you said, pastors, whatever, like no one is above their need for the church.
Right.
Like even if you're a leader, pastor, you still need community, you still need all these things. And to think that you don't need it, and so therefore you're not going to get involved in it while you're studying, I think it's a big disservice to yourself. Yeah. And, later on in your ministry, you can't therefore also get frustrated when other people aren't involved because you did the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. And community kind of drives the other things that we're going to talk about. So we'll go ahead and dive into reason number 2, why you do need church community while in seminary. And I think this one is often overlooked, but super important. And if we're being honest, I think we could all agree, man, this is true. And that's simply this, that the classroom is valuable. We know that. What you're learning, what you're studying, you're paying for it, it's valuable. But real life happens inside the church walls. And I say that to say, I go to a seminary where, if I'm being honest, a lot of people look like me, dress like me, think like me, vote like me. But within the church walls, there's many diversities, there's many ethnicities, there's many beliefs about super, different things, but it's all beneficial, it's all helpful because that is real life. Real life is not everybody looks like you, everybody talks like you, walks like you, anywhere else you go, whether that be the gas station or the supermarket or the gym. And so the church is no different, and it's super beneficial.
I've heard people say, professors and other people, and then in my experience too, talk about how they can tell the difference between people who are like fresh into seminary and don't have ministry experience and those that do, because the questions you ask are different. Like everything is still valuable to learn, but when you have real life experience, you actually get to see what works and what doesn't. I remember when I was working on my master's degree, I had this really unhelpful class. It was on discipleship. And it was so unhelpful because it was so kind of out of touch with what really goes on in real people's lives. I had this big assignment where I had to create this discipleship class and say what night it was going to be on, what it was going to cover. And I also, when I was in seminary, was also part of a church plant. And because I was part of a church plant, I was able to see real life of people. And I was able to understand and know that this kind of discipleship class thing I was supposed to create wouldn't connect with them. And without real life experience, you can go through seminary focused on things that, while everything does matter, like it's not going to, like those aren't going to be the main issues that you talk with most people with. Right. And so you really need to actually understand, okay, here's what I'm learning, here's how I can apply it, and also here are some things that I need to focus on and ask while in seminary because these are issues that are going on, and I wouldn't even know this was a thing if I wasn't part of a church.
Yeah, a tweet that I saw a little while ago and I love is it says seminary is where you learn the rules, and then church is or ministry is where you learn the exceptions. And that's not to say that everything you do in ministry or church undermines what you learn in seminary. But the reality is that some semesters when you're in seminary are strictly knowledge-based classes. So that might be Hebrew or Greek or a study of hermeneutics or a book of the Bible. Not all classes are pastoral ministry where it's like, oh, I'm learning practical things that I can take to the church, to my ministry. And so if you're in a semester where it really is a lot of knowledge, such as the languages or books of the Bible, where are your practical knowledge coming from? Where are you growing in those areas if it's not the class? And so it's not to say that class isn't valuable, because it is, but you're learning a lot of things within the church when you're diving into ministry.
And those, like I said, if you're in that situation, like those classes are extremely valuable. You need to learn and learn those things. But you can easily forget what real life is like if you're not in them. And going back to your first point about needing the church, just ironic because we think, okay, maybe I'm not going to get involved in the church until I'm a leader, thinking that you have nothing to learn, but you have a lot to learn, especially in seminary. And so I would say the best experience you can get is seminary and being involved in the local body. That'll equip you more than anything else. Yeah,
for sure. And that kind of brings us to our third reason why you should be a part of a church community if you are in seminary. And we kind of alluded to it in the first point. But the reality is that great opportunities are available for you if you get plugged in. New City is a church plant, and I think we would both sit here and say there's endless opportunities for anybody who is willing to work hard, show that they have a passion for it, to get involved and do some really cool things here at New City, and not just like hold doors as if, some people look down on that and like, oh, I'm just holding a door, I'm not doing anything important. But like real things, like we're having interns now, and there's, if you're in seminary, get plugged into a church, because there's endless opportunities. Churches are never going to turn you away from serving or using some of your ability that God has given you.
And with that too, one of the helpful thing about opportunities is it really shows you not only what you might be gifted in, but what you enjoy.
Yeah.
And so whether you want to be a church planner or a lead pastor or whatever ministry type of thing you want to do, being in ministry before you get to that position for the first time really allows you to see, okay, what things about ministry, because everyone's going to do things they like and they don't like. But it's helpful to know going in, okay, here's what I don't like to do, here's what I need to get off my plate sooner, here's what I'm good at. And you can't figure that out if you've never been in a position where you can try different things and new things.
Yeah. And you said it before, it's foolish to think I will get really plugged in when it's my church or when it's, where I see myself, because that's just it's not helpful. I can, if I'm being honest, and I'm at a position at New City where I think I've grown the most by doing things that I would say I didn't love. Opportunities that I would never maybe put myself in, but opportunities that I was put in, and it's really grown me. And so to not take those opportunities, or to say, I'm going to wait until it's exactly what I want to do, where I want to do it, is just foolish, because you're going to learn a lot of great things while you're kind of developing in your seminary and knowledge. And I've seen that personally in my life.
Yeah, and with that too, one of the helpful things about getting plugged in is that not only do you get to see like what you like or what you enjoy, but you get to start to create habits now.
Yes,
because the habits you form, like you can't just like turn on the switch. Like I use this example, which is completely unrelated to this, but like if someone's struggling with pornography and a guy thinks, when I get married, I'm going to stop.
Right.
Like you've created a habit that's not that easy.
Yep.
And so in seminary, you can create the habit of, I'm going to work hard, do things maybe I don't enjoy, or I'm just going to sit around until I get everything I want, which will never happen, and it'll turn you into someone who's just lazy and doesn't understand how to work hard. So you want to start creating habits, which is one of the great things about opportunities you can get if you get plugged in.
Yeah. And the fourth reason, as we're kind of wrapping up here, I think this would be my biggest push for someone who's maybe teetering and actually being all in a church community while in seminary. And I put it like this, that there are some people in the church community that are gems for your future ministry. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of men and women, especially in my instance or in my situation, they have so many more years of experience than honestly I do of being alive in the ministry, that why would I want to waste this opportunity and overlook or neglect their spiritual leadership? Now, not everybody in seminary is, like me, 24 right out of college. Some guys and girls go back, and I understand that. But nevertheless, there are people in our churches who are looking to influence you, who are looking to, share their ministry successes, their ministry failures. And if we just get involved, we find these people. And that's been my case. And it's invaluable. It's one of the most important reasons that I would want to be part of a church.
Yeah, especially, if you want to plant a church, or maybe not, but like having people that you can grow and develop and get to know, so that when you do move on to your next thing, that maybe they'll be able to come with you and you have these relationships that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah.
Was really big important. And one thing I was thinking as you were talking, it's a little bit different than these points, but kind of goes with them, about the reason why you should be involved. Is I think sometimes people, you might be thinking, well, there's no churches that believe or do everything the way I would do them. Yeah. And I just want to say that's true. There's no church that's going to do everything the way you're going to do it. Even if you want to be a lead pastor one day, your church will not do will still not do all the things the way that you would want them done. But if you cannot sit under and submit yourself and be involved in a community where you might have, I'm not talking about like big theological disagreements, but maybe some philosophical disagreements, practically, maybe even some minor theological disagreements. If you can't submit yourself to that, then why would you expect anybody to want to come to your future ministry or church unless they absolutely agree with everything that you did, because that will never happen.
Right.
And so don't make the excuse of, well, I don't agree with this, or I would do this differently, hold you out, because you're going to miss out on all the things that we talked about in this episode.
Yeah, and I would say, just as, in conclusion for myself, that one of the greatest joys for me being in seminary is that I'm at a place where I can take what I learn in the classroom and apply them to my ministry here at church. Like, that's one of the coolest things, is when, you're sitting in class for 3 hours on Monday and you think, man, what a drag. But then you're learning about things, and you're hearing from professors, and you're hearing things that you can immediately plug into the ministry that you're at, whether you're the lead pastor or not. And so that's just one of the greatest things, is that I encourage you, if you're in seminary, get into a local church, some local church, and find that balance. Use the gifts of knowledge that you're learning in the classroom and apply them some way, in the ministry, whether you're the lead pastor or not. Because for me, it's been a really neat opportunity, and I can see the value in that as my ministry unfolds.
Awesome. So thanks again for being with us today. Again, 4 reasons why you should be involved in a church community if you're in seminary. 1 is everybody needs a church. 2, the classroom is valuable. Real life happens in a church building. 3, there's great opportunities for you to get involved, so don't wait. And number 4, as Adam said, there are gems or relationships that you can develop that you would miss out on if you were not involved. So thanks for being with us. If you have questions you want us to talk about in a future episode, as always, practicalplanting.com/questions. And until then, we'll be with you next time on Practical Church Planting. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Practical Church Planting. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Practical Planting, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you like or subscribe or do whatever it's telling you to do or should do on that platform.
And hey, if you are so tired of looking at our ugly faces, but you're not tired of listening to our beautiful voices, then you can find our podcast if you just search Practical Church Planting on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure not to just find it, not just to listen, but to subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Brian, tell them to subscribe.
Subscribe.
See you next time.